Hi, it's time for Hot Chats. My name is Sharon Pender, President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council and the operator of the U.S. Department of Commerce MBDA Business Center, Washington, D.C., and the MBDA Federal Procurement Center, servicing Washington, D.C., the state of Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Welcome again to Chat Podcast, Minority Business Connections, Season 1. This is Episode 5. And if this is your fifth time coming back, we say welcome. If it's your first time, we say truly welcome. And this time we are here with distinguished guests from 21st Century Expo Group, Ray McFarland, Leslie, and Iman McFarland. They own and operate a premier expo and trade show company located in Prince George's County. In their special series, we're highlighting untold stories by minority businesses and how they cope with the pandemic. It's our mission to continue to feature one-on-one conversations with CEOs, contracting officers, minority businesses, supply diversity professionals, and procurement leaders from some of the leading companies in America via our Hot Chat podcast. And if you have been around, you are familiar with our Hot Chat webinars, our Hot Chat newsletter. But more importantly, we want to hear from you on topics that's important to you because that's the value that we bring. But before we go on and we bring in this awesome family, let's say hello and thank you to some of our sponsors. For those who are just listening, our title sponsor, Exelon, and that composes for us BGE, Exelon Company, Pepco Holdings, and Epsilon Company, Southwest Airlines, Hilton, Amicus, one of our premier MBE sponsors, Capital One, CompuGain, JDC Events, SB and Company, and Shroud Priest, Attorneys at Law, are our major sponsors. And we'll get into our other sponsors in later on. But I actually would love to bring on this dynamic family. When you talk about generational entrepreneurship or just folks that have experienced that journey of entrepreneurship, I'm excited to have this conversation. So I want to bring on the family of McFarland and introduce you to them. I want to start with Rayford, or Ray B. McFarland. First of all, hi, McFarland family. How are you all doing?
Good afternoon.
Okay. This has been a long time coming, so I am just so happy that you're here. I'm going to talk about you a little bit, then I'm going to talk about you some more. But first, I want to tell folks who you are. And Ray McFarland is the founder and chief executive officer of 21st Century Expo Group, or 21st CEG. Mr. McFarland founded the company in 1991 as an exposition, exhibit, and event management company serving the emerging minority event market. 21st CEG's service to its clients encompasses the broad spectrum of exhibit, decoration, trade show management, display and event production. Over its 30-year history, 21st CEG has received or served numerous corporations and national associations, including, of course, the National Minority Supply Development Council. We look forward to seeing you there every year. The National Education Association, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and for those who don't know, that's the NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ExxonMobil, Toyota, McDonald's Corporation, Time Warner, just to name a few. And since 1981, I did not know this about the two of you. Since 1981, he has been married to Leslie Norris McFarland, president, and they have one daughter, a 2009 graduate of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who serves as the chief operating officer. Now, what's so significant to me is that I got married the same year, 1981. That's a great, great year. And I tell people I've been married all my life. But since 2009, Leslie has served as president of this award-winning company of the nation's exhibit trade show and specialty industry group. Her husband, Ray, established the business as we talked about, and since its inception has maintained the stellar reputation as a minority-owned business specializing in management marketing, but I'm going to say has maintained a stellar reputation of of being this exhibit management and marketing, display and decorating services company who just happens to be a minority. Now, the daughter here, the beautiful daughter, there, these three words mean everything to Iman: tolerance, fellowship, and honesty. And it goes on to talk about her excellence in her undergraduate years at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, when she was a star athlete and continued to find ways to give back. And upon graduation with honors at Howard University with a master's in business administration, Iman continues to focus on her efforts of giving back to the community. And currently she is the COO of the family-owned business. We're going to talk about the family business, how it all came to be, how it continues to exist after 30 years, and then how you dealt with the pandemic. But I know some things about you all that you may not have remembered. You told me. I'm going to talk about that too, because of course Leslie's my homegirl. We shared a taxi ride in Detroit and found out we were both from West Baltimore, and so and then that her family has been influential in my life. And then Ray, everybody kind of knows in terms of this business. And then to bring on your daughter. And I bet you, and I'll talk about this later, it was a conversation I had with you, Ray, years ago. Now, most time I don't remember yesterday, but for some reason I'm remembering these conversations. I'm going to bring that up in just a moment. But before we go, I just want to say hello. And before we go rather into what I'd like to show is an intro about this business. I'd like for us to just show a short video if we could.
21st Century Expo Group is a family-owned and operated business with my wife, Leslie, and my daughter, Iman.
It's literally a mom and pop operation.
One of the things that motivates Ray and I is the fact that Iman has come on board.
We are the only full-service, woman-owned, minority-owned trade show general service contractor in the country. We initially became familiar with Google and its Supplier diversity program through the Tuck School of Business. That's allowed us to grow our business. Our daughter Iman has gone out and closed multiple deals that has created at least a 40% increase in revenues over the course of the last 2 years.
When you're running a family-owned business, the values that we build on our family goals is what we put into the company as well.
It just gives us extra motivation to grow the company and to give her as much support as we can while we are still working.
How you all doing, McFarland family? How you doing today?
Doing great.
Feeling great.
Oh, good.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Listen, this has been a long time coming. You all know I've been wanting to have this conversation for quite some time. So let me just start by asking Leslie and Ray, 30 years ago, did you think that you'd be still standing today? What was kind of your thought around that? What did you see for the future 30 years ago?
Well, you know, Sharon, the idea behind the company was to build on a foundation of excellence, being a organization that grew out of nothing. The one thing that I always kept in mind was I named the company 21st Century Expo Group back in 1991 because I knew it would take at least 10 years for us to be recognized as a preeminent partner in this events industry. So the fact that Iman was 3 years old when we started the business and she was just yay high, we really hoped that we could find ourselves in the position that we are today with her being the next generation and running this company.
That is awesome. So you always had that thought. So you were looking at that girl in the crib and say, okay, how do we get her through uh, her MBA? How do we get her working here, even in the
Yes,
crib? That
yes.
is awesome. That
Thank
is absolutely. So let me go back a bit. If I remember correctly, in some of the conversations I've had, you guys met at Howard.
Yes, we did. We met
Okay,
at
I do
Howard.
remember the conversation.
I was on the basketball team, and Title IX came around, and they created a
Mm.
program and got rid of my husband's program. So we we he didn't like me at first, but we did eventually um, got together.
Okay. So a lot of stuff, a lot of good things have come out of Howard University, and so kind of what was your undergraduate focus, Frey? Did you always think about entrepreneurship?
You know, I grew up as one of 9 children in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
And my parents kind of instilled a level of independence and work ethic in each of us as we were growing up. While at Howard, my actual interest was to go into law. Um, my brother, who is an accomplished lawyer and judge,
Hmm.
um, was someone that I highly admired and really wanted to develop the firm of McFarland and McFarland Attorneys at Law. Didn't quite turn out that way once I got on Howard University's campus and really took up the mantle of entrepreneurship. Always wanted to have my own business and operating in a way that I could service my community.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. So, Leslie, were you thinking about entrepreneurship back then?
Actually, no. I was thinking of coaching and going and getting a master's in kinesiology, and I ended up teaching physical education for several years until Ray started the business, and then eventually I joined him.
Hmm. That is something else. So, Iman, did you know that you were being groomed for this?
No. When I was younger and my parents were in this business, I did not want to be a part of the family business during my educational years. They traveled a lot. I didn't understand what they were doing most of the time. I was home, they were away.
Mm-hmm.
During the summers, I did get to visit and travel with them, and I thought that was the best experience ever. But I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to serve my community as a pediatrician. So my high school and college undergraduate degree was in sports science, and I took all the prerequisite for medical school. It wasn't until I graduated and I took the Carolina Business Institute,
Mm-hmm.
which was a 6-week intensive business course for non-business majors. And that's where I found my entrepreneurial spirit.
Ah,
I never thought of owning my own business in high school or college for that matter. And in this institute, I excelled in business. I won one of the competitions. I was excited to get to class every day. And so after I finished this program, I went back to my parents and newly graduated college graduate, and I go to my parents. I'm like, guys, I want to join the family business. I'm so excited,
uh-huh.
and they said no. They wanted me to experience life. I'd played basketball for the past 12 years. They wanted me to ensure that I wanted to pursue
The
the
business.
family business
Yeah.
and not just go into it because um, they wanted me to.
Right.
So I took some time and I actually started my own business consulting um, with them and some other competitors in the market. And, a couple of years later, I went and got my MBA. And that is when they accepted
That
my
you were serious.
offer. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you and I had that conversation. We were at this Microsoft meeting. I don't know if you remember in downtown Baltimore. And I remember you told me that you had to convince them that you were serious to go in the business. I think at that time too, you were being recognized for an award around that time. I don't know if it was back at Chapel Hill, but you were being recognized for some big award. Do you remember that?
It might have been my Hall of Fame induction at my high school,
And that's kind of
maybe.
big, I think. I don't know about you, but that's kind of big, Hall of Fame,
Yeah, that
right?
that was fun.
So where did you go to high school?
Bishop McNamara. It's a small Catholic school in Forestville, Maryland.
Okay. Okay. Very, very good. And so they were finally convinced that you were serious about doing this. So my other question to you, I can't let this kind of go by, given the stardom that you did achieve and playing basketball. Was that predestined for you as well because of your mother's interest and your father's interest in the sport?
Absolutely. I obviously got my height from both of them. My dad was the one who pushed me and challenged me in middle school and high school to become the athlete that I was able to be, and it allowed me to get a full ride to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, one
Oh,
of
wow.
many schools that had offered me scholarships.
Hmm.
And I was thankful that they didn't have to pay for college tuition.
I'm
So
sure they
that
were thankful too, I would imagine.
yeah, so
Yes.
their hours
Thank
of
you, UNC.
gym time that they put in paid off, and the expense of AAU travel paid off. And my mom encouraged me all the time. She was very chill. She was at every game. She was quiet and was just thrilled to be a part of my journey through high school and college. So it was a great experience with both of them.
Oh, outstanding. I just love the heartwarming stories um, of how we came to be. Who selected her name and why did you name her Iman and what does that mean?
Well, it means the beginning of a new season, and we had been married for about 5 years, and you know, left left work every day, played tennis all evening, just had a great life traveling, and we knew that it was going to be a new season with a little one coming, and that's how we picked Iman, the name Iman.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's a
Her
beautiful
middle
name.
name is Leslie.
Of course.
Are you serious? Is it really?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Right. Tell me. I know, you went from wanting to be a lawyer to then got the entrepreneurship bug in at Howard. But why did you select the type of business you selected?
Well, Sharon, it was a journey of exploring various types of businesses. I sold insurance, encyclopedias, cars, trying to find the right fit for me. It wasn't until after I got married and had an experience living and working on Hilton Head Island that the hospitality, recognizing that hospitality was a place that I could possibly be very comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to Washington after living down there for a short time in South Carolina, I met a friend of my sister's whose stepfather had started what at that time they told me was a trade show company. Had never heard of the word, didn't know what it was, didn't understand what needed to be done for it. But when I interviewed with Robert Price, he was the founder of the very first African American owned trade show company. He
Ah,
thought that I had the proper skill set, one, to be able to handle the work that was associated. But what really was the closer, he asked me three questions. He said, do you like to travel, meet nice people, and stay in nice hotels? And, at 27, 28 years old, that was
yes, yes, yes.
that was yes, yes, yes. So I became fully involved in the business, worked out of his home for the first few years. We grew the company.
Wow.
It was during the time when supplier diversity was just becoming in vogue.
Okay.
And we were the only company of color in the business. And so subsequently, we were able to work with the larger and well-known organizations, Urban League, NAACP, NMSDC, throughout the nation. So that kind of gave me a leg up on what this industry was all about. And I stayed with Bob for about 8 years before starting 21st Century Expo Group.
That is an awesome story. I did not know any of that. So, at what point do you, as a business owner, do you think that you've kind of turned that corner, right? Because part of it is the investment you make in the business, the investment of time, at which had to take a tremendous amount of a chunk out of you, right? And so, at what point was there an aha moment for you guys?
Well, it was pretty simple. Uh, as you know, the dynamics of growth between ownership and at the time I was a 30% owner of the company. That was part of my compensation package. But I had larger visions for the company as it stood. Mr. Price had retired from the Department of Transportation as their exhibit manager, and he saw his business as one of really, kind of maintaining a lifestyle that included keeping as much money in his pocket as he could. What ended up happening, we had a series of disagreements about the direction and growth. As you know, I had a young family. My wife was, interested in, growing as well as I did, and I got fired. Mr. Price thought that it was best that we part ways, and I had, been advised by some of the very clients that I was doing business with that, I could possibly do this on my own. So 6 days later, I got my paperwork in order, and February 14th, 1991, 21st Century Expo Group was born. And I must commend my alma mater, Howard University, for being the source of giving us our very first opportunity to start the business. And, to this day, we still service, 30 years later, we still service Howard in a number of different capacities. But it was that key kick in the butt, so to speak, that launched me into the industry. And I decided to, go all in. And I was fortunate that the majority of customers that were with RP Exhibit Service at the time, I brought them on. And after a couple of years, they found their way to me. So that kind of, really launched us in terms of growing the business to what it is today.
Okay, so along the way, was there a point where you think that you had crossed a major milestone in your growth?
I must admit we crossed several milestones, good and bad. At the Million Man March, that was the deal maker. So we were 5 years into the business. And at the time, I was subcontracting the majority of work that we had brought on board to larger non-minority firms. And it wasn't until I participated in the Million Man March that I realized that this was something I needed to take control of, be a responsible party in terms of serving people in my own community and developing people who look like me into this business. So we were fortunate enough to have a great relationship with FSC First, which is
Okay.
as you well know,
Yeah.
they're a special funding source.
Yes.
They literally financed our first warehouse and the acquisition of enough equipment to put us on a path where we could do the majority of the shows that we were doing on our own.
So it was making that investment.
That's exactly right. They made that investment in a family, and to this day, they still are a funding source for us over as we speak. The thing that made a difference there with them, though, was the fact that we had survived the 2008 recession. We also survived 9/11, and both of these experiences were business-threatening incidents that happened in the general market. And then we come to, of course, the pandemic of 2020. All three of those experiences provided us with the understanding that we, as a business, had to be agile and not married to the past, but willing to take the necessary risks to grow the business, to continue to survive and grow the business to the future.
A couple things that you said. First of all, shout out to Shelley Wade and those
Yes.
folks at that organization in terms of the access to capital that was provided. But you, as a business person, made that decision to make the investment in your company.
Yes.
Because I'm sure it wasn't free capital. So you made that decision to make that investment in your company. So that's the access to capital and capitalization of business is what we know helps with survivability. But it sounds like you're saying if you look at the economy and during certain eras or certain points in the economy, you were able to survive at 9/11 and some other recession stuff. So what were some, in terms of lessons there? Was it, to ensure that the savings was there? I know you said to be open in terms of pivoting, but what were some of those lessons that got you through those downturns?
Well, the critical thing, Sharon, was having relationships like yours and other folks who were in that circle of the National Minority Supplier Development Council.
Okay.
The relationships that we developed over the course of our 30 years were critical at different times with different organizations. When I think back to how we survived the recession that went from 2008 all the way to 2010, 2011, and then to be able to come out of that and to be selected as the CRMSDC Supplier of the Year in 2012, and then the National Minority Supplier Development Council's Supplier of the Year in 2013.
Okay.
Meant that we really engage with our customers and those organizations, corporations as well as nonprofits, that really understood that we were in business to serve, not to just create revenue streams for ourselves exclusively, but to really bring a business and to keep a business that was willing to serve our community and do the right thing by the people we work for. We've always had a desire to grow people in this business because, as being the only, as you can well imagine, always had a level of risk associated with, if anything happened to me or Leslie, what would happen with the company. So now we have a beautiful group of people that work with us, and the future of this business is in good hands with Iman.
That's so wonderful. I'm waiting for the book, but until then, tell us when, like everybody else, right? We wake up March 2020. And I know that I had to shut down, we're a nonprofit. Like, I had to shut it down and did everybody teleworking. You had, if I remember correctly, I remember having a conversation with you guys about, the new space that you had.
Yeah.
It was relatively new in
Yes.
terms of your acquisition of moving into that bigger warehouse space. And so, what were you thinking at night when you went to bed around a pandemic? It hadn't happened since centuries, right? So, what were you thinking? What was the thought? And what was the conversation around the dinner table, when the pandemic happened?
Well, I'm going to let Iman address that
Okay.
and her
Okay.
mother, because one thing I haven't mentioned is that I'm also the owner of an Amazon delivery service partner
Oh, I
operation.
think I remember that. Yes.
One of the, as you mentioned, we moved from a 10,000 square foot building to a 40,000 square foot building in 2018. And knowing that the growth projection that we were on, fueled by the work that Iman was doing, required that we also have a bit of a backdrop and a secondary funding source in the event things got shaky,
Okay.
and as they historically do in the latter
In
part
that
of the
business.
year. You know,
Okay.
NMSDC is the last major conference of the year, and
Okay.
November through February were relatively flat. So I
Okay.
decided to pursue, to apply to Amazon for this operation, which we were awarded in 2019. But Iman will share. So I was moving between two organizations, and in the meantime, Leslie and Iman were fully engaged with 21st Century. But Iman, you can talk about 2020.
And
Yeah.
Iman, by the way, I cannot let this go unnoticed when your father proudly said that 40% of this business in that piece, that he attributed to you being a part of it. So I think you have earned your supper.
Well, thank you. And I owe that to my sales team and my operations team. We were really, I will say this, we were really on a roll prior to the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we were hitting our peak. We had just rebranded in February of 2020. I remember vividly doing a quote for Google at South by Southwest, and we were
Hmm.
so excited.
I would
Um,
imagine at South by Southwest.
we were,
Yeah.
yes, it
Oh,
was our
wow.
first experience. It was going to be a huge event, and every day when the pandemic was coming out, they were like, okay, well, we're going to have to reduce this, we're going to have to reduce that. Then we hear South by Southwest was canceled. And then, it was every single event from
I can
February
imagine.
on. And it
Yes.
was devastating. I mean,
Yes.
like my father mentioned, we've made it through 9/11. We made it through the recession, both of which, affected the budgets of so many corporations, but we were able to recover. But when you have a pandemic and you have to limit all social interaction, that looks a lot different. And our business is bringing people together. We love a 10, 20, 100,000 crowd, and do events for and have fun. And so we knew that we had to sacrifice our events for the safety of the world first and foremost.
Sure.
Events definitely hit the back burner when we are talking about the livelihoods of everyone, especially my parents. I wanted to keep them safe at all costs. So to say, we have to put a pause on trade shows, I didn't know it was going to be a year and some change.
Sure.
But sitting at the kitchen table, we talked about what our options were. We knew we had a brand new 40,000 square foot building that we had to pay bills for. We had utilities. We had an amazing relationship. Again, it goes back to our relationship building. We had great relationship with our landlord. We had amazing relationships with our banking, our financial institutions. So immediately my mother jumped on the funding resources that were available for small businesses through the SBA, through the PPP. So we were able to get funding rather quickly, and my mom can talk about that as well. But that was amazing to do. So once we had that funding, we then pivoted and created the campus, which is a premier academic, athletic, and wellness facility, which now we've opened up to the community.
And it sounds beautiful. And so, can you tell us a little bit about the campus? And I think we had a website for that as well.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
and Leslie? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Iman.
Oh, sure. The campus is a athletic facility. It holds 2 full basketball courts, 3 half courts, 2 full volleyball courts. We have turf. We have a batting cage. We have boxing. And not only do we have these courts, we also are providing space for trainers and coaches to build their own small businesses as well. So that's been a real blessing. In addition to 10,000 square feet of our building is classrooms and meeting spaces. So we're actually able to provide tutoring and enrichment courses that will supplement the virtual learning environment that students have been used to this year. I know it's been difficult during that time, so we want to get kids back into a classroom safely to help get them ready for the next year.
And I can't help but think, first of all, what a brilliant idea. And I can't help but think, Leslie, as you talked about in your earlier years wanting to be a teacher, how much of that, and I think about the family, the athletic family, how much of that, comes back to your roots, right? And in terms of the instruction piece, in terms of the athletic abilities, or the ability to have the sports piece. What a brilliant idea! And so, how can people be a part of this?
Well, you can log on to our website, www.thecampusdmv.com. We are open 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so log on. You can book court time for all the courts that I described, and we'll be happy to have you.
Okay, so how does that play into? Because it sounds like, and Ray, you definitely are a serial entrepreneur. It sounds like you had that thing going over there with the Amazon piece. You pivoted over here, but you still have your core business, and so you're still juggling all those balls, correct?
Yes, yes. And as you well know, planning for the National Minority Supplier Development Council is in full swing. We just don't know as to what version of a conference it's
Sure.
going to be, whether it's going to be a virtual conference, a hybrid, and or live. So, and that really speaks to the industry writ large. Our clients, and Iman has such a broad group of customers, Intel, Facebook, Google. These companies are also waiting for the signal to get back out there. So we have been able to develop our organization and the resources that we have to really prepare ourselves for 22. We feel that if it doesn't happen in the fourth quarter, we're absolutely certain that our core business activity will come back in full swing come first quarter of 22. And in preparing for that, we've done several things. Because of the success of converting our facility from a warehouse that housed all of our equipment to an athletic, academic, and wellness center,
Okay.
we had to literally find another building to house our clients' equipment, their displays, our trade show equipment, carpet, tables, chairs. And in that space, we're working to develop what we know is going to be a necessary part of the industry, being able to operate virtually as we are doing right now.
Okay.
Today, we are sitting in the campus studios. It is the next version, it's the evolution of 21st Century Expo Group, going from an exclusively live, on-site trade show company to being able to not only produce virtual events for ourselves, but also for the companies, organizations, and relationships that we have developed over the course of our 30 years. This facility is supported by something, Sharon, that you know for a fact, and that has been drilled in me for years by being associated with our supplier diversity partners. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. This facility is what we call our mini convention center. We've grown from a 10,000 square foot building to now a 55,000 square foot space that houses four other companies. We have Kevin Bonds, who is behind the scenes as we speak right now, producing this portion of your podcast. We have Doug Hall, who is an AV and live events expert, Maryland Sound. We have
Okay.
Mr. Brayboy, Sean Brayboy, who has a company that provides broadcast quality production, who is supporting us. And then we have Onichi Chukwu, who is a young woman who has started her own special events company focusing on floral design and special event decoration. So out of that collaboration, we've been able to bring together the equipment, the expertise, and resources to execute at a very high level, on par with the competition that is still trying to figure out what their moves are going to be as the industry finds its footing later on this year and next.
But you know what? That is a priceless nugget that I take away today, because I'm just thinking, it's like, okay, so I need to come to you as I think about, you know, we're having conversation. Everybody's talking about returning to the office, but as I think about returning to our events, you are the leaders and helping people come out of the pandemic and looking at how they produce their events. I think that is just an incredible nugget to kind of take away. And so we've been dormant for a year because what we did was we didn't do anything.
Right.
And so if we begin to come out of that, you can give us the guidance of how to do that. And you also set the bar high in terms of how to pivot and maintain and even grow during the worst pandemic in history. And that's, I want to bring Leslie in for just a moment with that. You know, Leslie, they say behind every great man, there's a great woman, and behind every great woman, there's God. And so as you have gone down this journey for the last 30 years and then, and been married almost 40 years, if not 40 years, what has crossed your mind, or what has been your prayer around the survivability of your business?
Well, you know, because we're a family-owned business, I mean, it is our livelihood, and you know, we're very conscious about making sure that we're growing, making sure that we're proud that we've brought a lot of people into the industry, that we've been able to train people. Some have gone on to start their own businesses within the hospitality industry. We're proud of a program called Project Expo, where we selected individuals from our community in Prince George's County and exposed and trained them to the industry. And one of the young men has been with us for 7 years. And so we've always been conscious of, we want to grow, but we also want to bring other people that look like us into the hospitality industry.
So you're, I'm sorry. Leslie.
Oh, well, I was going to say about our pivot, being that, as Iman expressed, we lost all of our contracts and business in 2020. We had to think of what can we do with all this space. So the fact that we have been able to open up an athletic facility is like a dream come true for me, being from a physical education and sports background. I am just, it's like a dream come true for me to have to get up, put on comfortable clothing, and come to work and sing.
But you know what, Leslie? It's also great for people like me who put on that COVID-20, and I got to get over there at that center. So go ahead. So I'm glad you were thinking about people like me.
Absolutely.
You're always welcome to come over.
I'm coming because you gotta lead me out of this pandemic for events. So I gotta come
That's
see
right.
you anyway.
Yes,
In
we've
closing,
got a great exercise area with equipment.
oh, I need more than exercise, honey. So how do we bring this all together in closing? I'd like to get just something from each of you in terms of you're an inspiration. And we're blessed to have you, first of all, in the NMSDC and CRMSDC family. And you have been that organization that's kind of set the bar high for everyone.
Yes.
I think this experience of what you're doing, I think the family-owned business is just priceless. And so any thing you'd like to share with us in closing? And then I'm going to remind you of a conversation that I had with you guys some time ago. Go ahead, anything in closing?
Just we're very appreciative of the opportunity. We're looking forward to the end of COVID, looking back and getting back into convention centers and conferences and doing what our core business. But we are so blessed to have been able to pivot to a different type of business. But now we say we just do all of our events here at the warehouse as opposed to traveling.
Okay. Iman, anything?
I would just say I think this past year has just shown us how strong and resilient we all are collectively. I know it's been such a hellish year, but when we move forward, if something difficult comes our way, I will always just say, we've made it through the pandemic. It can't be that
Right.
bad. And so I have a different outlook on what difficult means now, and so I'm ready to take on what is next.
And we are ready. You represent the next generation of entrepreneurs and all of that. And we are so ready to see what you're going to do next. So proud of you. Ray, anything you want to do and say anything in closing?
Well, God is behind all of this.
Mm-hmm.
He has been our key source in the darkest of times. We seem that whenever there's a bill due or an opportunity that we're pursuing, somehow or another, it always shows up. One thing we were very proud of in going through this pandemic is that we made sure to cover all of our bills. Any company that we had done business with prior to the shutdown, we made sure they were first in line because we respect the industry that we're in. And we always knew that, you don't want to be labeled as the guy who stiffed, all of your vendors,
Sure.
no matter what the conditions were. So we feel that by doing that, it put us on a path to open ourselves up to new and unknown blessings. And it is absolutely true. For all of the businesses out there, large and small, do not let the dark times define you. Know that there is a source and a place for you to find your opportunities that are coming your way. Just be resilient, stay true to your beliefs, and always be about service. If you serve somebody, God will serve you.
You know what? I think we're going to call it a wrap on those words. Just that's very profound. Thank you. Thank you, McFarland family. I appreciate you taking the time and engaging with us today. And I wish you the best of luck, as I know that you will continue to excel and soar. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with our audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this particular episode. But before you go, we got a couple of things going on here. We want to thank some of our major sponsors, as we normally do. And I believe we're going to have some Southwest tickets at some point, but we'll figure that part out. But I need to go through the sponsors list because they pay the bills and keep the lights on. AARP, AT&T, BAE Systems, Bank of America, BWI, Thurgood Marshall International Airport, Dominion Energy, the Ellison Group, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FRS, Horseshoe Casino or Caesars Entertainment, Ideal, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, M&T Bank, Marriott, McCormick, Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, National Bid Network, Northrop Grumman, Peapod, Sodexo, Truist, United States Postal Service, Washington Gas, Metro, WSSC Water, Wells Fargo, and Zillion Technologies. Until the next time we will see you, we hope you enjoyed this conversation today. I absolutely did. I am so thrilled about the McFarlands. And so that's a wrap for us. I'd like to thank the Graybo team for their production and delivery of the content. And of course, the CRMSTC team led by Sonia Bigelow Smith and the Federal Procurement Center and our MBDA centers for doing this. And so thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Latoya, for all that you do. And we'll see you next time.